corridors, the Liverpool City Region cycling and walking network, the Liverpool City Region mass transit options, and finally a hydrogen fuelling option to promote the take-up of alternative fuels. So these 4 bids have been received and are now in the process of being assessed by the relevant panel. What is further good news is that in the autumn budget, we were also told that we've now got an additional £38.5 million to go on top of the 134 we'd already received. So that's excellent news for us. The challenge is we now have to bring forward schemes to utilise that funding. So invitations have been out for some time across our partners, and that's not just the local authorities, it obviously includes the LEP and even the private sector. Essentially we are after schemes that are transformative in nature, and therefore we are prepared to consider any scheme that comes forward. 4.6 gives you an indication of the type of thing that we at Merseytravel are prepared to consider. So they are a service underground access system linking the LSP to the airport, the potential devolution of Merseyrail infrastructure, which is something that we are now actively pursuing. Introducing digital railway technology on the Merseyrail network to improve reliability, safety and public information. And finally, urban traffic control technology to improve journey time, reliability and punctuality. So paragraph 4.7 gives an idea now of the profile of the spend that we have to achieve. And in order to do that, we want to and we need to actually improve the way that we're actually dealing with the calls for allocating Transforming Cities Fund. So what we're recommending in this report is that future calls, as opposed to going back to the combined authority each and every time we want to release a call, we actually give delegated authority to the Director of Policy and Strategic Commissioning in consultation with the lead portfolio member for Transport and Air Quality, which is Councillor Ron Abbey. We ask that the committee agree that future calls go through those 2 individuals so that we can speed up the whole process. 172 million is an awful lot of money to get through in 4 years. We need to basically get through that as quickly as we can. So, Chair, I would ask the committee to approve the recommendations in item 2 of the report, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions? First of all, got Jeff, and then Harry.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Of course, it's always welcome this money. As you said, 172 million is an awful lot of money. Probably what it is they take away the past and drip features in a different way, but it's always nice to have it. We shouldn't have a positive. But some of the schemes on there, we've looked in the past whereby the car industry some years ago was struggling with various things, and there's a scrappage scheme introduced for cars. It helped the motor industry considerably, and I wonder whether any form of scrappage scheme could be incorporated into this as we move into vehicles that are going to be electrically powered and various other things. And that can include an awful lot of things, whether that be commercial vehicles that we have from the authority, or taxis, for instance, that are up and down and cause pollution. So some good issues there, and whether the other one that may seem a little bit outrageous, but nevertheless should be looked at, is about drone delivery. We spoke about it once or twice, but drone delivery, in the future, may be a very good way of delivering things around city centres, whereby some of the money could be looking at the possibilities and probabilities of that.
Chair, as I said, I think as you know, the whole purpose of this is I suggest that whatever we come up with is transformative in nature. And for that reason, the Department of Transport are looking very closely at what we do and indeed what all the other authorities are doing that are receiving TCF. I wouldn't personally discount anything. The only reservation I have is that, as I said, by definition it has to be transformative. So whilst a car scrappage scheme is, I don't know, the Chair is very keen on such an idea, is the sort of thing that could be considered. The question I put back was how transformative would that be in order to get through the business case process, because obviously any applicant has to submit the relevant information so that the panel can assess whether it's worth taking forward. Personally, I've got no experience of developing or delivering such a scheme, but as I say, I think we should consider anything that, you know, if people want to put something forward, then, you know, let them put it forward and we'll consider it.
Got Harry and then Steve.
Just come back on that. I think that's a really good way forward. The other thing that needs to be kind of supported by that, if you do go down to the entry one, is things that we often spoke about here as well as actual charge points. You know, you don't want to be have cars all over the city region that are kind of conked out because they can't get under 2 mile down the road. So that's another thing that needs to be included, possibly within that. Thanks, Jeff.
Harry and then Steve.
Thanks, thanks for the report, Mick. The only little concern I have is that I understand, as you said, that spending 172 billion in 4 years, although I've probably managed it. So, I appreciate the difficulty of putting the case together. I would need to put a case together. But always there's the concern when we look for a speedy way of getting decisions that we can lose out on the democratic deficit. Now I know, as you clarified, portfolio member is Liam and his deputy is Natalie, so I've no worries about them not giving it anything brought forth them for consideration. But I would like to think that at the same time, because it's part of our role, the Transport Committee, to look at these kind of things, that there will be regular reports back to the Transport Committee, ideally before the decision has been made, but if not, to make sure that we are getting a full and are able to give our comments on the schemes as they go forward. Thanks, Chair.
I just clarify, Chair, that in terms of the responsibility on our Chair and the lead officer of the Policy and Strategic Commissioning, that is simply on when to issue the calls, which are the invitations to apply for funding. That is not to make decisions on which schemes get approved. That would have to be done by the combined authority. And by all means, we would bring any proposals that we're going to put to the combined authority to this Transport Committee in the first place.
And just to yes, I did understand that, but I do know that Liam and Natalie are held in such high regard by the combined authority.
I think on a specific point, I fully support everything you say there, Harry. I think we've got to focus on making sure that this is sort of genuinely transformational, and I think it probably calls for what I genuinely call a workshop, actually more of a brainstorming session amongst all of us with different ideas. Jed's idea about drone delivery is an exceptional concept. Absolutely, let's kind of look at what may or may not work. Because something like that's transformational. That has the ability to take a number of vans off our streets, for example. So perhaps we need to sort of organise a specific session where we can throw out different ideas and see what might work in the mix. Now, some of those ideas might not work, but unless we air them, now it's to kind of put them on the table and then appropriately look at them, we'll never know. Got to Steve and Chris.
Yeah, my question is, yes, the schemes must be transformational because that's what the title of the thing is. But there's always a disconnect with these sort of grandiose plans and what's happening to real ordinary people. They're interested in a bus being available, they're interested in the trains being run on time and so on. So my question or my challenge to officers and everyone alike is that where we can use this money, and I realise it's mainly capital money, but where we can use this money to alleviate revenue implications on the budget. So for example, if we are using it towards the ferry project, surely there's an argument to be made for the staff engaged in the ferry project to be funded, their wages, which is revenue, to be funded as part of the capital because it's a one-off project. And that's the type of thing I think we could use this money for to take pressure off the budget in other departments. The rail project, we're funding a team of people, once the train's been bought and done and dusted, that surely is part of the project cost. I'm not trying to ask you to break any rules, but I'm asking you to be imaginative with the rule, because for every penny we can pay an officer on that project not coming out of our revenue fund, then that releases money for some of the other ordinary things that people are seeing being taken away from them, due to austerity and the cuts that colleagues have referred to in the past. So that's my plea, is that we be as imaginative as possible about how we use this money. Because, you know, we're not going to keep paying the staff, are we, designing or tendering for a ferry boat, because once it's done, it's done. They'll go. So I believe that can be part of the project cost, as opposed to being getting the revenue account all the time.
I start, but if I don't fall out with my colleague, Mr. Fogarty, I'll let him finish. I totally agree with Councillor that the revenue issue is an age-old problem that we face and we discuss many times. And we'd love to find a way around this ourselves to do exactly the sort of thing that you're suggesting. But unfortunately, the financial rules don't allow us to do that. We are imaginative where we can be, making sure that we don't break any rules. And at that point, I'll ask John to finish off.
Well, it's actually relatively simple on major capital programs, projects like the rolling stock, which you mentioned, where the rolling stock team cost will be part of the overall project cost. Similarly, those costs attributable to the design, implementation, etc. of the new vessels will simply be treated in that way.
Okay, Chris and then John.
Thanks, Chair. Just two minor points. Yeah, the issue from I think with this whole process is we need to get good ideas and that we can process quickly. It's one of those, you don't spend it, we're having it back. So I think that's the real challenge to it. So in that way, yeah, I can see the benefits of devolving the timing. Absolutely get that in timing. Look at page 53. 36C, one of the original projects. We're actually falling in respect to the priority ERDF. Is Brexit likely to cause us a problem with that, or is that what we've already got? And just looking at that.
No, sure, that is money that is already in the bank, if you want to put it that way. We will get that money, it's been approved, so it is there.
Yeah, by way of information, that's covered by a paper because they can buy the authority tomorrow. So that will get locked down. John?
Thanks, Chair. My question relates to page 54, 4.6, please. The first bullet point there, it just discusses the idea of a surface or underground access system linking Liverpool South Parkway to Liverpool John Lennon Airport. With not that spent there, 154 million in one fell swoop. Surely going underground would be phenomenally expensive. But anyway, just I'm sure somebody wise in the room will have an answer, and his name is Mr. McNew.
Councillor Stockton is quite correct. It would cost an awful lot more than that. What this is suggesting, Councillor Stockton, is that we use the money in the first instance, as it says there, to explore. So essentially, this would be development work needed to see whether it's feasible or not. There's no way that we would provide such a...
Chair, not to keep it cheap, can I suggest we send a mole down?
I also think it's worth saying that list is not exhaustive, so other ideas can be put on there. Any further questions or comments? If not, can I move the recommendation in paragraph 2 of the report? If that's agreed. Excellent. Eighth item is public question time, and we've got Mr. Andrew Wennell with us again, who's got some really good questions to ask us. So, Andrew, do you want to come and ask us the first one?
Good afternoon, Council Committee. The first question I've got to ask is about the learning panels. Now, I know there are the past tax and stuff for it, but when you can apply, if you want things like higher rate mobility for things like people what used to be DLA, and obviously people who have things like blue badge and stuff, they should be able to apply for it. But some people like myself can't apply because you need to have a set registration for it, and I was being advised only change registration, say what to be 6 months. So people like myself who are registered blind, who doesn't always have the same person taking you around, how can we solve this problem and actually be able to apply for it? So we don't have to pay to go through hell.
That's a really good point. We'll obviously give you a detailed answer. I suppose part of the challenge is that when we originally gave that concession, it was more based for those people that might not be able to use the public transport network. But obviously we can take on board feedback as well, but we'll give you a more detailed response accordingly within the relevant timescales. And you've got another question you're going to ask us?
And the second question is about Christmas and New Year bus services. Some of the operators are running a supposed Saturday service on, say, Thursday the 27th and Friday the 28th of December. Now, surely the rules and regulations should go with that Saturday service, so things like the concessionary cars shouldn't have a time restriction on it on those days. Is that going to happen, or they still get charged for 9:30 in the morning?
Again, another really good question. Unfortunately, for this year, it is only going to be valid after 9:30 using the concession pass on those days for a variety of network-based reasons, but we'll give you a more detailed response, and obviously happy to kind of take that feedback on board as to what may or may not be able to pan out in future years. Okay. Thanks for those, Mr. Lang. Those are really, really good, useful questions, good feedback for us. Thank you.
Okay.
We've then got ninth item is petitions and statements, and Steve, I think you've got a petition that you've kind of submitted to us. If you want to, you can, or you know, you can do it from there if that's easy.
I declared interest, so I'm leaving. I'm technically leaving the room too.
Thank you, Chair. With your indulgence, you've seen the words associated with the petition. I'm really grateful to the staff of Merseytravel for the response to the Avon crisis. I know that's cost us extra money, up to the tune of 1.4 million is the latest estimate that's gone into that. But after the dust had settled on the Avon crisis, there were certain areas that felt aggrieved, felt isolated, felt left out, quite frankly. One of them is the ward which I represent, and the neighbouring ward particularly will be following up this petition, I guess, with a similar petition. And it's a sort of priorities that we use. The world now doesn't stop on a Sunday. Retail, care workers and the like, leisure activities, Sunday is still very much an ordinary day, sadly. And the other thing is evening time, especially the winter nights, people will go on public transport to